Welcome to the March 12th, 2024 City Council meeting. We do have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, would you please read the rules to speak?
Yes, sir. Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Sign-up and oath cards are available on the table. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address the pending issues, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items. Citizens wishing to speak on the consent agenda must submit a sign-up card identifying the items of interest. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes to speak on the entire consent agenda. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to City Council shall be placed in the box on the table.
As always, thank you so much. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of February 27th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Minutes are accepted. City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. A housekeeping item. Staff is requesting to table item 9A, which is easement vacation number 1-2024. We'd like to table that to your next meeting, which is 26 March 2024.
Can I get a motion to table that?
So moved.
I have a motion to table it from Vice Mayor, a second to table it by Member Nelson. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Tabled. City Manager.
We have no special recognition or presentations. We are on boards and commissions. Item 6A, which is the North Brevard County Hospital District Board Semi-Annual Report. It will be presented by Mr. Billy Speck.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Diesel and members of City Council.
Hello, sir.
I'm Billy Specht, 3230 South Casper Place, and a member of Parish Medical Center Board of Directors. I want to recognize fellow board member Herman Cole and thank the senior leadership, George and Natalie, for being here. Natalie's going to advance these slides for me. It is my honor to present Parish Medical Center's semi-annual report. A written report has been provided that summarizes the outcomes achieved by Parish Medical Center since our last report. My presentation this evening will highlight select announcements, awards and recognitions, community involvement, new providers added to our medical staff, and an example of Parish Medical Center's mission in action. There's lots of incredible developments that have happened since my last report here at Parish Hospital. But I would like to first address the elephant in the room, and that is House Bill 739. With respect to the legislative process, we are pleased that it worked out as intended. We believe House Bill 739 would have had profound negative consequences for both health care access and affordability in North Brevard. We will, of course, continue to operate transparently and look forward to working collaboratively and in partnership with our legislators while remaining steadfast in our commitment to advancing affordable, high-quality health care in the community that we serve and we're honored to serve. Furthermore, we are sincerely grateful for the outpouring of support we received from our fellow healthcare colleagues and the community at large. Parish Medical Center's administration will provide the public additional information in the coming days outside of today's meeting. With that said, I'd like to share an exciting announcement that is not within the written report you received. On March 7th, 2024, Cleveland Clinic and Parish Medical Center jointly announced that Parish Medical Center has become the first U.S. member of Cleveland Clinic Connected. After many months of discussion and passing a rigorous review of Parish Medical Center's operations, quality and service excellence, Cleveland Clinic welcomed Parish Medical Center as its first domestic member of the Cleveland Clinic Connected program. Cleveland Clinic Connected is a robust program that provides members across the world with access to Cleveland Clinic's wealth of knowledge to enhance patient care, safety, and outcomes. As Cleveland Clinic's first U.S. member hospital, Parish Medical Center is again at the forefront of building collaborative relationships with like-minded organizations that are focused on future of patient care, reducing healthcare costs by creating operational efficiencies, and providing exceptional patient experiences. Through program membership, Parish Healthcare's integrated care network will also benefit. More information about Parish and Cleveland Clinic Connected Partnership is available on our website, parishhealthcare.com. Parish is also pleased to welcome Lisa Dickerson to its executive team as Chief Nursing Officer and Vice President of Nursing Administration. Ms. Dickerson is a results and purpose-driven nurse executive with 23 years of experience. She shares Parish's focus on providing exceptional quality and healing patient experiences. Lisa replaces Edwin Lofton, who retired as Parish's Chief Nursing Officer after more than 17 years of loyal service. Lisa is already becoming active in the community, and we look forward to her contributions to Parish's continued growth and success. Extending the reach of the Parish mission through measured and strategic growth initiatives is something with which Parish continues to excel. Last report, I had the honor to share that Parish added the new Da Vinci robotic surgery technology to expand its surgery programs and services. Today, I'm equally honored to report that Parish has again expanded and enhanced its surgery services. Parish Medical Group's orthopedic surgeon, Matthew Musto, and Parish Medical Center are the first in Brevard to offer the VELYS robotic-assisted joint replacement. This groundbreaking procedure uses digital technology to precisely and accurately implant joints that are tailor-made for a person's own anatomy. Patients who have had joint replacement with this new technology are usually recovering in the comfort of their home the next day. It is clear that Parish's focus on the future of healthcare is unwavering. Recently, we also introduced the MagView technology. This technology further advances mammography care in North Brevard. The combination of the MagView and the 3D mammography means greater precision to support early detection and to significantly improve patient outcomes. All of these technology advances assure that North Brevard citizens have access to the very latest surgical techniques and treatments right here close to home. Parish's focus on continual improvement goes beyond technological advancements. It extends to continuing education and professional development. We are pleased to recognize Dr. Naik and Dr. Patel for earning national professional distinctions. Dr. Naik was named a fellow by the Infectious Disease Society of America. Dr. Patel earned 2 healthcare quality and management certifications from the American Board of Quality Assurance. Parish also continues to recruit new providers to the community in support of growing and expanding healthcare programs and services in North Brevard. I won't read all the names, but you can see that since our report in September, Parish has welcomed 26 new providers to its medical staff, representing a range of specialties from primary care, obstetrics, thank you, emergency medicine, critical care, surgical services, and more. The list of Parish accomplishments continues. Parish's Joint Commission's certified primary stroke center was recently recertified. Parish was first certified as a primary stroke center in 2004. Every 2 years since then, the Joint Commission, which is one of the nation's leading healthcare accrediting organizations, conducts an on-site review of Parish's stroke protocols and patient care outcomes. It's a rigorous review of hundreds of stringent quality standards. Your Parish Care partners earned a perfect score from the Joint Commission this year. That is an incredible achievement and speaks volumes about the level of focus on providing the highest quality care for stroke patients as expressed by Nancy Brown, CEO of the American Stroke Association. Parish also provides Brevard's only Commission on Cancer accredited oncology program. As such, Parish is also recognized by the American College of Surgeons as a surgical quality partner. Surgical quality partners, like Parish Medical Center, are recognized for their focus on the future of patient care, reducing healthcare costs, and the improvement of healthcare outcomes overall. Accomplishments like this take a lot of hard work and commitment by everyone through the healthcare system. On behalf of the Parish Medical Center Board, I want to extend our gratitude and pride to the parish healthcare leadership and the more than 1,300 parish care partners for their commitment to our community. However, my report doesn't stop here. In addition to constantly enhancing and advancing healthcare programs and services, parish healthcare is equally devoted to community involvement. As your public, not-for-profit community health system, every dollar earned is reinvested back into creating access to affordable healthcare programs, services, technologies, education, and other community building initiatives. For example, Parish invested $42.9 million in charity care and other uncompensated care in fiscal year 2022, and another $31.7 million in fiscal year 2023. And although Parish is a special taxing district, the Parish Board, who are locally appointed by this City Council and Brevard County Commissioners, have not taxed the community since 1994. Zero taxes since 1994, and still hundreds of millions of dollars invested to address community health care needs. Everything Parish does is focused on addressing the healthcare need priorities identified from our community health needs assessment. It's important to note that since 2016, Parish has, at its own expense, engaged a third-party organization to conduct a community health needs assessment every 3 years that is specific to North Brevard. There is a countywide assessment performed. However, the North Brevard population is not well represented in that assessment. We wanted to make sure that North Brevard had a greater voice in identifying needs specific to our community. The next several slides I will go through quickly. However, they are meant to provide a small sampling of the many ways Parish engages with the community through outreach and support of charitable community organizations. From September 2023 to February 2024, 9,350 community members attended one of the many Parish healthcare supported outreach programs. In this 6-month period, Parish offered nearly $57,000 worth of free programs and services. Here is a sampling of Parish's community outreach involvement: supporting student athletes, equipping North Brevard youth athletic leagues with life-saving AEDs, technology and CPR training, supporting North Brevard Public Schools track enhancements, and supporting our local YMCA youth programs. Building community partnerships to address mental health and addiction, providing healthcare screenings to Brevard Public Schools, the City of Titusville, the Great Outdoors, Senior Center, to name a few, working with American Cancer Society to make strides against breast cancer, coordinating a toy drive and donating hundreds of hams and turkeys to provide holiday meals and gifts to benefit hundreds of North Brevard families in need. Annual supporter of the MLK Parade and event benefiting Boys to Men. Support of area charity races like the Space Race, benefiting United Way of Brevard. Supporting our Space Coast economic development initiatives, as well as our City of Titusville community events such as the annual Ride It Down event. Community support of our Women's Center to provide needed domestic violence prevention resources to our community. I could go on, but there are many charitable organizations and community programs that we support. But in the interest of time, I will conclude by sharing this quote from a recent grateful patient, Martiza. She had a heart attack. In fact, her heart stopped 3 times during her medical emergency. Martiza said that my whole experience was outstanding, that the way everyone worked together was flawless. The team at PMC saved my life. For that, my husband and I will be forever grateful. I would recommend PMC to anyone. Martiza's full story, as well as many other incredible patient stories, are available on Parish's website. Please take a look on our website. This concludes my report. I'm happy to try to answer any questions, and I got the senior staff here that can also answer questions.
I don't know that I have a lot of questions. Member Cole certainly might.
Well, it's not a matter of questions, it's just the fact that if you notice the last few slides with the community involvement, those kinds of things would not be possible if we were not a public institution.
Good point.
And I want to make sure everybody understands that if this had gone forth, the existing board of directors at the hospital the 9 would have been vacated, and they would have been placed by 5 members that would be appointed by Governor DeSantis, and they could have been from Tallahassee, Orlando, Miami. So the local interest would not have been there. So the news that you gave in the beginning was something that was exciting news for us, for the whole city, for the whole North Brevard area. So thank you, and I am proud to be a part of the Board of Directors of Parish Medical Center.
Thank you, Herman.
Thank you, Member Cole. I would say that we certainly were keeping up with the legislative movement and don't want to get into a whole lot more than that. It was disappointing that we had to keep up with that movement. You know, the visual I get is, you know, you got that block game where you pull blocks out until it falls down. Well, you're a block that if we pull out, it's all going to fall down. There's just too much, you know, and then you do all this with 30 years with zero tax levy, 30 plus years.
94.
Yeah, incredible. Every year I talk about, and you kind of hit all that, so that's great, but every year I talk about not only is it a great wellness place to be, and if I got the numbers right, you added more than 30 healthcare professionals. It just goes on and on. But that being said, you do so much in the community, and I'm one that always talks about the little things like I don't think it's a little thing actually, but it's compared to what you do, it's probably a little thing. But the Christmas lighting of the tree, that's a fan favorite, and that's getting bigger and bigger. And then certainly Breakfast with Santa has made a comeback. And as a grandpa, as a pop, I get to go to both all the time. I was out of town this last one, and I appreciate you noticing that. So anyway, very pleased to have you guys. You're certainly part of a backbone that keeps this city moving in the direction it's moving, and I couldn't be more pleased. I moved here in 1965, and not a lot of stories, but I can tell you, my mom had major surgery the first year we were here in 1965, and on one story, you know, looked like Riverview Elementary School. I mean, it's one story. And from that point, I actually was in the hospital in Dr. Story, the first Dr. Story. My parents always say, saved my life. Had mumps and encephalitis at age 9. That's a big deal in 60 something. That was a real big deal. Just, you know, you're part of the family. I guess as it hits me, that's just what it is. You're part of the family. And I certainly hate to see anyone dispel that. We'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for what you do. It's beyond words to me. And we're blessed to have you here, and we're not going to pull that block. That block's got to stay. Anything else? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much. Hold up. This is, I believe, this is a presentation with no need for anything. We don't have anything here. You'll get it in a minute. All right. You guys good? Yeah, we're good. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys, very, very much. City Manager.
Petitions and requests, sir.
Oh, that's what you were doing.
If you guys want to listen.
Yeah.
I very much think that we're going the wrong way if we convert this to a private hospital. And I've been here for 50 years, and I saw us look like we lost the hospital during those times. And it was a touch and go situation. And I appreciate the long presentation because it's a big deal. I mean, I think we'd be crazy to not support this.
Absolutely.
To continue to being a public hospital. And what's going on in the press is not enough to support us. I certainly hope that we will be successful and just do it, because this is an important decision. So I know this is part of my 3 minutes, but thank you very much for fighting to keep our hospital public. It's a rarity indeed. Thank you. Okay, so are you ready to hear me now? About the-
Your 3
okay,
minutes is
the
up.
other
You
issue.
missed it.
Okay.
Thank
so
you, guys.
Last time I was here, I got a letter from, it's a letter written by Mr. Stauffer, and I was talking to you about it at the CRA meeting. So I think, so you see, you have this same handout. And the thing is there's gag orders on employees, and I'm going to the governor's office and so forth to see what you can do, investigate what's going on. Because it's horrible dishonesty, heinous crimes by our Water Resources Department. It's terrible. And you know, when I talk about spraying women, children, and babies with sewage, it's just, how in the world did our water resources allow this? I don't think EPA is going to give me any help, but I'm going to the governor's office, attorney general office, and so forth like that. So I'll be copying you the correspondence as I complain about this and ask for investigation of what's going on in the city of Titusville, something that I think that you should do also. This is crazy what's happening through the support of our city manager. How in the world he can support this kind of stuff, and how in the world you can support it too, I don't know. I mean, I'm telling you about it. You can go and talk to the witnesses on Greenwood Street. They saw the sewage there for months, a big puddle of it. And the city denies it. Not only did they deny it, they went ahead and worked on it, and they removed the manhole where the sewage was on top of. And I did see one sign of a sewage spill, but there was only one sign. And you even deny that's one sign. This is crazy what you guys have done, what Water Resources has done. I think you should look into it, investigate, self-investigation right here from the council. Say, what has happened? Because it's not true. When you had a sewage spill, a big one. And I said, and Laura Lee was one of the witnesses. and you guys are fighting the TEC commission, and they're asking you to respond. So
Thank you,
good luck.
Stanley.
Thank you.
Next up.
Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to see you all again.
I was just saying the same about you.
Thank you.
I don't do yoga. That may surprise you guys. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, the city has a very lovely and popular park at the south end of town. Speaking of the linear park that's across from Ellie and Cedar,
Oh, yeah.
on the east side of the intersection of Coquina Street and US 1. The park has never been named. A few years ago, a small portion of the park at the north end was named to fulfill a requirement of a sales contract. Some of you that have been on for a while remember that, and Mr. Larice will remember if you have questions. But the bulk of the park, 75% of it, has never been named. When the city was in discussion with the residents of Indian River City historic neighborhood about the creation of an Indian River City neighborhood plan, the residents proposed some names for that park because it was in their area. Of course, Indian River City Park was the most popular, but there was some objection to that from the council. Two others that were proposed were Coquina Street Park and Referendum Park, because if you'll remember, that park was created by the residents of Titusville, for the residents of Titusville, through a referendum that they agreed to. But it's up to you what you call it. But it's too beautiful an asset not to have the dignity of a name. And I'm asking if you would please proceed to name it and put some kind of sign on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Nelson.
Well, being a smart aleck, I suggested we name it Roberts Park.
It's true.
But, okay. The land originally belonged to my dad. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the land that Eliancito sits on was my dad's. But it would be nice to have a name for the park, and Referendum Park, Coquina Street Park, they sound great. So it would be nice to have, I don't know what we would need to do to name it.
I don't either. I guess that,
I'm looking at
I'm
Scott. I'm
always
hoping
for
he has
that
an
sort of
answer.
thing. I'm the kind of person, I was a big part of getting the Dorothy Wise building at Titusville High School, Al Warnicki Field. I mean, there's just certain things that's, I think it's a good point. And I guess we'd need guidance on what kind of steps do we take to do that?
Yeah, I think what we would need, sir, is for you to do advisability and vote on that you would like to bring it back as an agenda item.
So would I need to make a motion? Okay, so I make a motion that for advisability on naming the park across from El Leoncito, that's 75% or so, to come up with a name.
Second?
A motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Good idea.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good idea. I'm not moving on without you.
I spoke at the wrong meeting, may I?
You may, you
Restate
absolutely
my-
may, because, and
My
truthfully,
mistake, I got
we're the
excited.
same people, but this is the official one that can hear it anyway, so.
That's-
That's
thank you.
exactly right, and thank you for
I
staying here.
appreciate your patience, thank you.
No worries, thank you for your patience.
As you know, the residents of Royal Oak strongly oppose the placement of Apollo Gardens entrance along a local road. Section 1.14.6 of the comprehensive plan stipulates that a multifamily development must be adjacent to either a collector or an arterial street. However, Demerit Drive does not meet this requirement as it is neither a collector nor an arterial street. Despite our repeated requests, the developer has yet to find a solution that aligns with the city's comprehensive plan. I live in Spanish Oaks on Demerit Drive, which is a private road on my side and a local road on the south side, running through Royal Oak. Carrefour Supportive Housing, the developer, has also failed to address another significant issue concerning Spanish Oaks. Although Apollo Gardens owns the property at 2727 Demerit Drive, ORB 1564-987, indicates a 50-foot easement area granting Spanish Oaks control over that easement. How will Apollo Gardens access Demerit Drive if there isn't an easement owned by Spanish Oaks? These are questions the developer has yet to answer. As negotiations proceed with Maria Hilton, it's crucial to acknowledge that the residents of Royal Oak, Spanish Oaks, and Village Square who plan to stay in their homes are not inclined to settle and are actively pursuing further legal action. Considerable time and effort has been invested in a project that contradicts the comprehensive plan and overlooks the easement issue. With three neighborhoods now involved, support for relocating Apollo Gardens to Melbourne is growing. We strongly urge you to adhere to the comprehensive plan. If that proves unfeasible, relocation of Apollo Gardens is imperative. And Billy Joe Clayton of Demerit Drive thanks you for your time again.
Oh, thank you so very much. Well read again, by the way. Next up. Petitions, requests? No, you started stand up, no? Stan, you can't go again. Okay, city manager.
On to consent agenda items, A through G. City Council, are there any questions of staff for consent agenda?
I see none.
City Council, do you want to pull any items off of the consent for further discussion?
I see none.
City Clerk, are there any cards for consent agenda items A through G?
Yes, sir, one card.
Mayor, I'd like to read the titles for the record.
Thank you, sir.
Consent agenda item 8A, approve the Student Advisory Council Scholarship Policy Expenditure. Consent agenda item 8B, approve the agreement for financial advisor services. Consent agenda item 8C, approve the purchase of vehicles for Public Works. Consent agenda item 8D, approve the valve replacement for the Morning Dove Water Treatment Plant. Consent agenda item 8E, accept the public utility and drainage easement at Hibiscus Avenue. Consent agenda item 8F, accept the Clean Vessel Act grant, CVA 24-002, and consent agenda item 8G, approve change order 1 and 2 for the Blue Herring Water Reclamation Facility.
Thank you very much. Council, any comments on any of those? I see none. Call the card, please.
Stan Johnston for 8D and 8G.
8B and 8G as in
D
goat.
as in dog.
D as in dog. Okay, thank you.
Stan Johnston, I'm a registered professional engineer, as you know, and I'm not a homeless person, as one of the police reports that has of me when I was arrested said I was homeless, a homeless professional engineer, living here for 50 years.
Homeless?
Yeah, homeless and what it was, running for city council several times and even, okay, anyhow, so that was kind of unusual. I found that unusual. But anyhow, 8D and 8G have to do with Water Resources Department. And I just talked to you about, at the petitions and requests, about the gag orders and dishonesty that's issuing from Water Resources Department. It's a serious matter and a serious matter of my trust. I want you to understand, if I was employed by the city of Titusville, I don't think it could happen, because I would complain about it to the city manager and they'd have to fire me or do something. But I just don't see how it could possibly happen, what's going on right now. I was given all excellent employee evaluations. And this is so much against engineering, it's so much against truth and so forth, what the city has done, what I expressed to you, not only what I told you at the petitions request, but, for example, the 4-log virus, complete dishonesty on that. The sewage spills, that's dishonest. And the not turning the fountains off in the public park ponds. It's unbelievable what's going on. So I do not have a trust for Water Resources, even though you got professional engineers there who are silent. They won't support Stauffer. Ask them. They won't do it. You got a problem. You need to do an investigation before someone else comes down here and does it. I'm calling for it now. And you know what's going on is what FDEP does. They don't respond to my emails. They don't respond to my phone calls. So I'm calling the ombudsman, whatever that thing is, for the governor. So you guys are, what we have is a horrible corruption, heinous crimes done in the city of Titusville, and these are as far as professional engineering concerned. And you need to do something about it, and I cannot support what's going on in Water Resources today, even though Mr. Stauffer is gone. His legacy lives on, legacy of dishonesty. I wish you were here to hear that. So I'm asking you to do something about it, because it's horrible. It's horrible. I'm embarrassed as a citizen of this Titusville and a former employee of the city. Thank you. Any questions?
None. Motion on the, nobody the cards, right? Motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda items 8A through 8G.
Second.
Got a motion from Member Nelson, a second from Member Stokel. Roll call vote.
Member Cole?
Yes.
Member Nelson? Yes. Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Consent agenda is accepted. City Manager.
On to ordinances, first reading. We're on item 10A, which is ordinance number 7, 2024 development fee review. And the city attorney will read the ordinance for the record.
Ordinance number 7, 2024, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Development Review Procedures Manual, Section 17.2, Land Development Fees, by including an expedited plan review fee, providing severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, incorporation under the code, and an effective date.
On March 6, 2024, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this item 6.1. Mr. Parrish is here to answer any questions you may have on this first reading.
Any questions on the first reading of 10A?
Out of curiosity.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Member Nelson, go ahead.
Brad, have you talked to any of the cities that are using the AI?
Yes, we received information from a few counties and a few cities that have been using this, specifically Hernando County, Pasco County, Seminole County.
Okay.
And I'll just give you one example of Pasco County. They did a pilot study of this, and they liked it so much, it really helped them reduce the timeframes for site plan reviews that they decided to go all in with it. So
Okay. Are we going all in with it?
We're
or
doing a
are
pilot
we-
study. What this ordinance does is allows us to have a pass-through fee or a charge in addition to our regular site plan review.
Okay,
And it really covers the cost of submitting a site plan through the software for this company. So we just needed to establish this ordinance, this fee structure, in order to do this pilot program that we're going to do right now. If it's successful, we'll continue with the contract with the software.
AI intrigues me and scares me. So I'm dying to see how it turns out.
Member Stokel?
Yep, just to verify or clarify, with this fee schedule, we would be getting all of our costs back from the application fee to do this, correct? We won't be out any money as a city?
So we do have to put up something up front, at least
Okay.
for the first 3 months, and that's going to be our trial phase. And then after that, then we can cancel it if it's not successful. But the consultant does, or the software company does need that upfront cost in order to help work with the city staff and to establish it and then get it going. But to allow to submit these these site plans to the process, there is a fee with the company, and that's what this ordinance is supposed to establish. So it won't be, in the end, there will be some upfront, but it's going to be minimal.
Okay,
What we've done, though, is we've already gotten before you an upfront cost of what we've budgeted, about $50,000 is what we think. If we are not satisfied with this, we're not going to utilize that entire amount.
okay, yeah, I think that's my thing. I just want to make sure those that would use this are actually the ones paying for it, because as I've talked to developers, I think they are more than willing to pay to have their application expedited. So I think they won't mind paying, and then I just want to make sure that they're the ones paying and it's not going on our taxpayers. Thank you.
Nice, man. Thank you very much. Member Cole?
Just a quick one, Brad. Now, in a 3-month period for the evaluation, if a developer comes in and we put his project in that, do we charge him that expedited fee now, or do we wait till after 3 months that we decided we have going to use it before we do it?
So all the nuances and the specifics we haven't nailed down yet. I suspect it's going to work this way. There will be some cost to the city to do this, no matter what. What we're trying to do is start a process. If we like it after 3 months, we can add on and pay for the next month and keep going like that. And that fee over time eventually gets paid for by the applicants. So we pay upfront a little bit, but then that gets offset over time, longer with them. So yes, this fee we've structured here is the pass-through fee to the applicant.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, Brad, how many man-hours do you anticipate this eliminating?
So the anecdotal evidence we got from Pasco County, for example, they were estimating 78 days or so of standard time to do a site plan review, and when they worked with this software, it brought it down to about a third of that. So our site plans, I think earlier today was a list of site plans that were submitted to. We have about 55 projects. So every time we update this list, we have more projects added to it. Depending on the complexity of the site plan, it's very complicated and it takes time. So I would think that if we're successful, we'll probably see the same results that Pasco County did or some of the other jurisdictions. But everywhere's going to be a little different. I'm hoping that we can at least bring it down to half.
Well, if it was 55, I think that's what we got in the email, was 55?
Sir, 55 development projects.
Right. It just boggled my mind, you can take that and you can cut the time in half, but somehow if it takes 55 and with man hours, just say that takes, we're just using arbitrary number of 8 months for the current processing. And AI can do it in 4 months. I'm just using those arbitrary numbers.
Sure. So the way it really works is we spend a lot of time looking at sheets of plans, and we have several staff members looking at this and quantifying a lot of information. What the software will do is allow us to be able to submit these plans through that software, which can then read this information against our code and then do the quantifying aspect of a review that would cut back immediately a lot of the time that we spend on some of these. And it's not going to take away the human review of site plans. We still have to review what the results are of this to
And
verify whether it's.
Basically give you, evaluate and give you a summary of everything.
Yes, sir. What it'll do, right, what they demonstrated to us is that it'll mark up a plan and show comments or markups in another report that it could be paired with the markup of the plan itself. What that does is really just, it eliminates the time that we spend maybe counting parking spaces, measuring the distance of separation of setbacks, things of that nature, where we can focus more on the nuances that we see in the code. And the software can also actually help us find conflicts in our code as well that we can try and resolve.
Good.
Member Stokel.
Oh, sorry, just one more comment to Member Nelson's point. It is very scary, but I remember sitting in on a presentation and people were kind of fearful of it and like, is AI going to take away our jobs? And I remember the presenter said, not necessarily, but you'll see a demand for people that know how to use AI and leverage that appropriately. And I mentioned this in my briefing. I think we're the first one in the county that's looking at this, and I appreciate the proactiveness because I do think this will catch on and become the future. So I'm really excited about it and appreciate you guys doing it.
I would agree with Sarah. I think this is a unique opportunity. And I know they're using it a lot in the medical field, and they're saying the AI picks up stuff the doctors miss. So I think that's great. A little apprehensive, but I think it's still great. So I think Mr. Honeycutt will be happy. He'll get his stuff back faster. And I think the other engineers will be happy. I think you guys will be happy. Yeah. Yep. You won't be cross-eyed.
Long before any of this even came about, being on the council since 16, I can tell you I've had many a developer even propose to me, let's have a fast pass line that I can pay more to go through. So I think that this AI is going to certainly help us move in that direction. So I don't think it's any issue. Is anybody going to be willing to do that? Absolutely they are. So, and as far as AI coming in and taking some jobs over, et cetera, I mean, that's part of technology. I just go through the Walmart checkout line now. All of a sudden, I can't find anybody who's doing the checkout. I have to do it myself. And rest assured, this old guy, not quite as old as Member Cole, but this old guy does not necessarily want to check my own stuff out. But I look at that sometimes and I think, and there are people standing there to watch it, but it's one per maybe 3 or 4 or 5. So there's definitely that issue, but that's kind of part of how it works. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited what we can do for our customers and our citizens, and that's exciting. That's the exciting part. Because let's face it, to me, and I'll go back to something we say at a lot of meetings in 2016 when we got on, because there are some we's up here, but when I got on council, we averaged 7 projects on the board at any one time. We now average 55 projects on the board at any one time. That makes it very difficult to have the same speed or to expedite like we have in the past. So that being said, I just think it's thinking ahead of the curve, as I call it. Good job on that. This is a first reading. We won't have any motion or vote. Call card.
One card is Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, I'm a professional engineer, and I welcome some intelligence. I wonder what the artificial intelligence would talk about is to say why does the city of Titusville, why would they not turn off the fountains and spray women, children, and babies with
You can
sewage?
talk about it in another way. We already talked about that.
This is an artificial
You already
intelligence.
talked about that. This is for about 5
Don't
minutes.
use
So
my time.
I'm going to use your time because it's my time too. So go ahead and talk about artificial intelligence and what you think about that program. Thank you.
You took 10 seconds of my
yeah.
time. I don't appreciate that. So anyhow, what is going on is, I'll give you an example, S&J Oaks. S&J Oaks has got a problem with water flows downhill. I hope artificial intelligence will be able to solve that. The city of Titusville has a trouble with dams. They built dams and didn't even survey what they flooded downstream and didn't send them to FEMA. I think artificial intelligence would recognize that, and yet we don't have intelligence here in the city of Titusville that does recognize it. I know I did. And the same thing goes for compensatory storage. All these dams the city built, none of them have compensatory storage. All of them violate the law. Why? Hopefully, artificial intelligence will wake some of you guys up. So you don't like me talking about FEMA, but by golly, FEMA is that we've got a whole bunch of, not only was Baker subdivision affected, but there was numerous other.
You've left something, you've left the topic on here. You're going to talk about what he's trying to decide he's going to do or not. Are we going to do this?
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. You're talking about artificial
We're
intelligence.
talking
I'm talking about
water,
site
we're
plans.
talking about dams and.
Those
so,
are site plans.
Talking about, go.
Okay, well, the
Let's
thing
see
is,
if
you
you can't
shouldn't
get
be
closer.
taking my
See if
time.
you can't get
I'm
closer.
talking about site plans, and I'm talking about reviewing them, and that's what this is talking about.
Talking about some people don't have the intelligence and all that stuff, so stay to the AI.
Well, what do you think AI is talking about? AI is talking about intelligence versus human intelligence.
And we have,
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So where are you? Where's Mr. Diesel? Playing football or what?
He's right here. He's trying to hear you
Okay,
talk
well, you're the
about
one
what
that
he's
missed the
talking about.
$58 million.
So,
You're the one that missed the $58 million. Okay, you can tell them later about that. That's not funny. But anyhow, let me read this to you. Read it to you. It says, 1, encroachment survey overlaps witnessed by me and Vice Mayor Joe Robinson. And number 2, independent findings by city employees Brad Parrish and Mark Jones of the right-of-way of Elizabeth Avenue is 53 foot wide instead of 50 foot wide as it is. And yet, well, the city continues to improve it. What would artificial intelligence do? Approve something that's not approved? My goodness. So you're talking. Hey, I'm supposed to have the floor, Mr.
we're
Diesel.
listening to what you're saying. We're
I don't
discussing
think you
it.
are.
I thought it was very worthy of note.
But okay.
No.
So do something, please.
So
Thank you. You're welcome.
You think that if the AI was around, I would have handled that more properly at the 58 million? Never mind, move on. We're going to confuse everybody.
Yes, I think so. I agree with you.
I'll explain it to everybody later. All right, but where were we? So you got me all swirled up here.
You're good.
Any cards? That's right. No more cards. And this is the first reading, so we move on.
Yeah, I hear the internet is a fad too that's probably going to go away.
Don't confuse me anymore.
We're on to item 10B, which is ordinance number 8, 2024, Golden Knights Boulevard. City Attorney will read the ordinance for the record.
Ordinance number 8, 2024, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending Chapter 28 zoning, Article 6 zoning district standards of the Code of Ordinances to require additional setback and buffer requirements for properties owned industrial M2 abutting Golden Knights Boulevard by amending Section 28-318 Industrial M2, 30-332 required landscape yards, and 30-339 visual buffer and screening requirements, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, and incorporation into the code, and an effective date.
On 6 March 2024, the Planning and Zoning Commission tabled this item to the regular meeting scheduled for 3 April 2024 to allow staff time to revise the ordinance based on the discussion and having a more definitive guidelines for the type of screenings to be used. The vote was 7-0. Mr. Parrish is here to answer any questions on this, your first reading.
What is P&Z looking for in that tabling? What are you supposed to bring back to them that they didn't have?
Some members of the airport authority came to the meeting and asked for more clarification of what that buffer or screening is supposed to be. They specifically asked for something that is more opaque. The ordinance was generally created as a result of their request during the, this kind of generally came out of the issues and discussions that you had during a conditional use permit that was brought before you related to the concrete construction facility.
That's right.
One of the conditions of that required a bigger buffer than what we normally have. The ordinance was created at your request, and so we created a general ordinance, kind of to find a bigger buffer that would just have to meet our minimum or current screening standards, which is just a line of trees or vegetation. The airport authority came and asked if they could clarify some more. There was some general discussion by the Planning and Zoning Commission members as to what that could be. There was even discussion about requiring a berm, which is a raised hill or fill there, along there, to try and create some kind of opaque screening against, from the uses that potentially could be allowed in these properties adjacent to Golden Knights Boulevard, which is the main entrance into the airport. Those properties are zoned M2, which is heavy industrial in the city, and allow a plethora of types of heavy industrial uses there. So that was part of the concern that was brought up by representatives of the Airport Authority and generally the discussion of the Planning and Zoning Commission. They asked for it to be tabled so that we can come back with some ideas. We can certainly propose in a revised draft more specifics of what that screening is. Maybe a raised berm with vegetation on top of it. That is something that is acceptable as a screening mechanism.
An example of a raised berm, if you remember where Titus Landing is over by the Parish Complex, that's a raised berm and landscaping that's on that as well.
And they put out seagrass on it, right? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, it's just about, they want the airport to look like an airport and not a debris collecting when you go into that road. So the aesthetics, making sure that it looks good and is pleasing to the eye as you go along. And I know that you guys are going to do your best to come up with some ideas of what you can do to hide as much of, if anything is put out there, not hide it, but, you know, just make sure it has a standard it must have if you're going to, if any debris or anything is stored in, out in front and so forth.
If I could say, in the draft ordinance, it talks about 50 feet. So, but the vegetation requirement minimum will be the same as we currently allow or require in a 10-foot wide buffer. So the question really to the commission is how much of a screening is necessary. There are many ways that can be done. A 6-foot high fence might not be necessary, might not meet their intent. If we're just going to increase the buffer, what's a 6-foot high fence going to really do? There are other ways to provide screening, such as a fence in conjunction with canopy trees, so that you have a 6-foot high fence or whatever height that might be, plus the canopy trees, and over time that creates a linear screen there. Another version is what was just discussed or brought up as an example, bringing a lot of fill on the property in that 50-foot buffer, creating a berm, whatever maximum or minimum height that has to be, plus any additional landscaping you want to put on that. Those are the two main ways of providing that screening.
And I think that that's probably something that, you know, they cover is a berm that keeps everything, for the most part, blocked from the visual eyesight.
Very good. Anybody else? Nope. Call the card, please.
We have two cards, Tony Schiffalo
All right.
and then Stan Johnston.
Hello, Tony.
Good evening. Schiffalo, Tropic Street. In the ordinance under question 8, 2024, the extant language that's there already says to review land development regulations to ensure that industrial development in the areas of the airport is compatible with aviation-related uses and promotes an attractive gateway into the city and airport. So you're talking about 50-foot landscape yard buffers on properties that are zoned M2, heavy industrial, and still wanting to have industry compatible with aviation and an attractive gateway to what's going to become Titusville's spaceport. So this is my moment. We told you so about the concrete crushing factory. And as a result of pushback by citizens, which made city staff and council aware that a cement crushing factory is not an acceptable use for any reason at the entrance to a spaceport and near the Indian River Lagoon. So I appreciate the fact that people are trying to reconsider the uses around the TICO, and I hope that something spacey comes out of it. Thank you.
You had to think of that one, didn't you? Took you a minute on that one. I would, if nothing else, I would say that the communication and that the staff is hearing that, and that's kind of a good thing they see sometimes from up here. And it's a good thing to see all the time. Any other card? Yes, we have another card, do we?
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, and I'm a professional engineer, and I'm supposed to have, when I speak, have 3 minutes, but I don't know how you all, or let's say Mr. Diesel, figures out this 3 minutes when he's talking and disagreeing with me about when I'm talking about artificial intelligence and that which is under review. I really didn't understand my interruptions and taking away my time. So right now, I'm using my time, the 3 minutes I have here, to say is that, well, you know, here's something that I'm not sure makes a lot of sense. It'd be nice to have artificial intelligence say, well, why are we making all kinds of special exceptions for something that's out of the airport area and applying it to areas that are away from the airport that apply within the airport. And I think of when I think of an airport, I think of you put berms there, and when a plane gets loose, it's going to hit the berm. I mean, I've been to many airports, and I don't see any berms because you got to tie down the airplane and so forth. My dad used to fly planes, and I don't remember of any berms anywhere in the area of these airports that I've been. So I'm not sure if that's a good idea, but there are some other good ideas you got. Maybe berms are right for some other places. So I'm not going to say any more, even though I've got about a minute and a half left. I'm going to let you have it, Dan, this minute and a half. You're welcome.
I might talk during your time. All right. And that's a valid thought that I hadn't had. I don't think it's a real problem. And clearly that's been thought out already, right? Berms are not an issue as far as an airport goes.
This was brought up by a representative of the airport
Then
as a
that's probably
possibility.
not. Okay, thank you.
Can I?
Yeah,
add-
absolutely, right there.
I
Nobody
like
else.
canopy trees. That's my vote. Trees, canopy trees. It would provide a sound barrier. It would look good. Berms are okay, but yeah. Yeah. That's my thought.
I have no problem. Trees are good as well.
All right, any other card? No, sir. City manager.
On to item 10C, which is ordinance number 9, 2024, soil amendment. The city attorney will read the ordinance for the record.
Ordinance number 9, 2024, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances to require soil amendments prior to installation of landscaping in specified situations by amending sections 30.303 standards, 30.372 planting standards, and 37.1 definitions, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, incorporation into the code, and an effective date.
On 6 March 2024, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval as presented 7-0. Mr. Parrish is here to answer questions you may have on this first reading.
Give me a quick summary of what this means in English terms. I'll be honest with you, I thought I got a pretty good understanding in the agenda prep meeting, but I kind of like to get that reminded to me. What's the history of this?
This kind of started out because of the project where they were replacing trees over at the Winn-Dixie parking lot. There were questions about the replacement of the soil as the trees are being replaced there. And this is true of a lot of projects where there is a replanting effort or redevelopment, especially of a site that has been developed for a long time and it has a lot of compact concrete and everything or soils on the property that are not suitable for new plantings. Soil amendment requirement would mean that our staff would work with the developer and the landscape architect and planters on the nurserymen on the property to make sure that there is proper amendment to the soil itself in the different landscape islands, for example, or in perimeter landscape plantings to be able to make sure that the trees and vegetation that is required as part of an approved landscape plan survive. So it's primarily, that's the main reason for this. And it's to help back our staff up as we discussed that with the with the landscape architects and other professionals on the site.
Well, I heard it then, I hear it now. I think it's a good initiative that basically saying you can't just put a tree in any kind of soil. Like, you can't just put a tree in sand. You just can't put certain trees in certain soils. There's got to be some study and an understanding of where you're going to plant that tree. That I appreciate. Council, anybody want to add anything else to that? Cards, please.
Tony Schiffalo.
Okay, I'm for this. But I wanted to point out that in section 30-303 of the standards, number 1, native vegetation is preferred and encouraged to be drought tolerant. Newly installed plant materials are encouraged to be drought tolerant species. Areas to be preserved in their natural state shall meet the requirements of the regulations for other areas. A listing of said species is available for reference in the landscape technical manual that's being worked on. And I think that it's important that the listing of species in the technical manual is a correct list, not the inadequate and incomplete list that's suggested by the consultant that you're paying so much money to work on. The suggested and recommended list compiled by the Titusville Environmental Commission, your advisory board, is specific to location. That list lists trees that would be proper to plant in parking lots, and they're specific to location, and they're drought tolerant, native, and sustainable. So when you consider adopting this ordinance, which would help in a lot of areas, I mean, look what they're doing over here at the Burger King. They've got all that concrete torn up. The list in the technical manual should be a correct native species-oriented list, and plants that are dedicated to Brevard County. There's a great list. So carefully consider the list that's going to go into the technical manual to further enhance our efforts to improve our tree canopy and our ground, you know?
I agree. I think it's a step in the right direction as far as taking the next step of thinking you can't just put a tree down.
Right. I truly appreciate that. So
And
thank
certainly
you, staff.
The native plants would certainly be a natural choice for survival and go from there. But yeah, I when you said you for it and like it, I can't necessarily say I'm for it because it's first reading, but I like it.
Okay, thank you.
Next card.
Michael Myjack.
Long time no see, sir. Hurry up.
We had to get here at the same
Oh,
time.
you got to wait. That's right. You got there at the same time.
Michael Myjack, Alpine Lane. Usually I get up here and I rail on you guys about one thing or another, or this isn't right, or that isn't right, right?
True.
Well, okay, here's the change. I think this is a good thing. We really do need to consider the soil types for plants. In fact, the native plant list that we're working on with the help of the Native Plant Society, our local club, is it's really astonishing. We've got over 300 native plants now identified that we can use here. And so I'm hopeful that when we have our meeting tomorrow, we'll be able to settle all that out. But the soil types and the tree types matter. And that's something that we haven't got in the listing right now. We don't have the soil types that go with particular types of landscape material. We just have the material itself and where it's suited, but not necessarily by soil type. So that might be something to consider when we go to what exactly that soil amendment should be for the species that you're planting. So, but I agree with this one. This one's a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's pretty refreshing to see. I agree. Next card.
The last card is Stan Johnston.
Drop something.
Stan Johnson, I'm not against this ordinance. However, here's what I've seen happen, mysterious things. I had someone who built a development, it was a bank on Garden Street, and they had all these beautiful oak trees. And so they decided to save maybe about 10 of these beautiful oak trees, and they kept construction traffic off and so forth like that. And even though they kept them off, several of them died. They just died a few years later, maybe 5 years later. They just died. I don't know why they died, but they died. And then I had I was up against that, and I had oak trees that were over 100 years old, and they were maybe a foot away from my driveway. You're not supposed to do that. And I had, one was about, should be well over 100 years, another one, big one, were live oak trees, and it was just about a foot or so off. And you're not supposed to do it because they lift up the concrete and so forth, but I was glad to save those trees. It was already there when I bought the house. So I'm conflicted about what is and what is not right for trees and what people can say, because I've tried help people save a tree, and then it dies. And then I told my brother-in-law he's going to lose a tree. He's filling around it, an oak tree, and it just had all kinds of suckers coming off of it around the trunk and up high and so forth like that. And it's still living now, 40 years later, 50 years later, it's still living. So I was wrong on that too. So that's all. Thank you.
Perfectly stayed on topic. That was awesome. Thank you. Good information, too. Next card? All right. No motion, no vote, first reading. Same man.
On to new business, on item 12A, which is ad valorem tax abatement for the Bricks Brewing Project, LLC. Ordinance number 27, 2015 granted an ad valorem tax abatement of 100% for a duration of 8 years to Bricks Project Brewery, LLC, based on 2015 projections. Staff has reviewed, and the project does continue to meet the requirements. Staff recommends approve the economic development ad valorem tax for tax year 2023 and the continuation of ordinance number 27, 2015 for Bricks Projects, LLC at 100%.
Thank you very much. Staff, anything to add to that? Nope. Council, any questions? Member Stokel?
Yep. Is this the last year for this one?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Anything else from council? Call the card.
One card, Stan Johnston.
Thank you, sir. Motion?
Motion to, I think we're passing the.
I'm sorry, sir?
we're passing or
Your
accept-
microphone?
Yeah, motion to accept the tax,
Ad valorem tax abatement.
yes, abatement for 2024,
23. 23?
Okay.
For the bricks.
And for Bricks Project Brewery,
Yeah,
LLC.
for ordinance number 272015 of Bricks Project Brewery,
Second.
100%.
There you go. I've got the motion from Vice Mayor, second from Member Nelson. Roll call vote.
Member Nelson? Yes. Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Cole?
Passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to 12B, which is ad valorem tax abatement for tax year 2023 for Paragon Plastics. Ordinance number 23, 2015 granted an ad valorem tax abatement of 60% for the duration of 6 years to Paragon Plastics based on its 2015 projections. Staff has reviewed. They do meet the qualifications to continue ordinance number 23, 2015 for tax year 2023 and recommends approval of the economic development ad valorem tax exemption for the continuation of tax year 2023 to Paragon Plastics at 60%.
Very good. Staff, I would assume there's nothing there. Council Member Stokel.
Sorry, just to clarify on the duration. So are we extending it an additional year because it's already been 6 years? Is that what this is doing, or is this the 6th year?
This is last year.
Yeah.
So this
That's the
will be the
last.
last year as
Yep.
well? Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other things from council? Call the card.
Stan Johnston?
Thank you, sir. Yes, thank you, sir. Member Nelson?
Move to approve the ad valorem tax abatement for tax year 2023 for Paragon Plastics.
Second.
Have a motion from Member Nelson, a second from Member Cole. Roll call vote.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Cole?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to item 12C, which is Landscape Trust Fund Advisability. On 26 October 2021, City Council indicated support for TEC's recommendation to amend the city's Public Landscape Trust Fund Resolution Number 30/2001 to require at least 50% of public landscape trust fund revenues to be used specifically for the purchase and installation of high-quality canopy trees only, which did not include the purchase of or installation of other vegetation, with the understanding that the Gateway project would be complete before this change in policy was effective. Staff is seeking advisability on the preparation of the amendment to this landscape trust fund established in resolution number 30/2021. Mr. Parrish is here to answer any questions and to give you a little bit more of an update on this one.
Mr. Parrish.
So this was brought up before the city council in 2000, or just a few years ago. And you made this, or the council at the time made this comment. It's on page 371 of your packet. You'll see in highlight. This was a summary of what was stated by city council at the time. It wasn't clear direction to us to do anything. It was more or less support of a recommendation that TEC had brought before you. We have not implemented this statement, so we're coming back to you tonight to see how you would like to go forward with this. Is this I guess we're asking for clarification. Is this a advisability for us to move forward on a particular action? Another reason I bring this up is because the TEC has brought this topic up several times at their meetings and before you, and so we would just like to have some clarification.
Member Nelson.
First question, do we know where we are on the Gateway projects?
I believe the plans are still in permit review with FDOT.
Yeah, under permit review, you have approved the signs themselves. Remember, we went through that.
Right.
And once because a lot of those are FDOT approval, they do
Yeah.
take a little bit of time. And we do have allocated funds out of the Landscape Trust Fund to do that. And like we said in the presentation, this is independent of that particular project.
Understand that, but I was trying to get a sense of when we're talking about maybe moving ahead with that project.
FDOT permitting takes a
Is
while.
FDOT? Yeah. Okay.
Sounds like we're waiting on the bureaucracy.
Yeah. So my thought was, I like the idea of using some of the money for canopy trees, but I don't want to tie our hands where if we have a project and it doesn't require canopy trees, where we go, no, we can't do that project because we can only do canopy trees. But I do like the idea of increasing in total our canopy trees in Titusville. Does that make sense? And I'm not sure how to do that. I don't know if anybody has any
Well,
suggestions.
I agree with that. I mean, that's kind of the him and haw of it.
Yeah.
We want to do this, but how much,
If I may, I just want to, if you take a look at page 369 of your packet, it's the original Landscape Trust Fund resolution that established a fund. And you'll see in the bottom there, section 2. It says there right now that all funds received in accordance with this code requirement, this fund that goes into this fund, would be used to beautify publicly owned or publicly maintained property. So it's it's limited to only public purpose, but it's flexible enough for you to be able to utilize how you see fit on an annual basis with the budget.
What if we said something to the effect that
Boy, this does go back.
maybe, I don't know how to say this. Attorneys are never, at a loss for
So
words,
to
are we?
maybe help you a little bit,
Yeah.
if we had a project that we were going to use this fund for, we would bring it before council to show you what the project is.
And at that point.
So at that point, if you wish to add or take away whatever in the landscaping, that would be your opportunity to do so.
Okay.
That's the flexibility we're talking about.
Okay, because I want the flexibility. And, you know, where we can, yeah, I'd like to add canopy trees, because I think it sort of keeps us shaded and cool.
I agree.
But I think the key is that you'll look at each individual project that we bring before you with a proposed landscaping using this fund, and if you want to adjust it, that would be opportunity to do so.
Okay, that I can live with.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I agree, Vice Mayor.
Yes, you know, I like the ability to not lock down money.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so that, you know, if it's something that needs to come before us, we can decide at that particular time. But right now, it's just, you know, setting back to be spent on trees and, you know, canopy trees or whatever vegetation that is needed to do the work that we need to get done. But if we start allocating percentage of monies over here, that money can stay locked up for a long time. Yeah. And that is not a good, I've had to deal with that in other positions as well. So just, you know, just give us let us maintain stewardship over what the money is used for.
Member Stokel.
Yep, I think Brad and the city manager kind of said what I was thinking already. The resolution, I feel like, makes it so we have to use it for those public purposes. So we are making sure that we are using those funds appropriately. And then to the city manager's point, all the projects will come before us. So I think at that point, if we are in agreement on the canopy being important and we're not seeing that, and it's been a while since we've done some, I think we need to have that discussion, say, you know what, this is what we're looking for. Because I don't want to tie our hands either.
And as the city manager, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
butting
No,
in.
go ahead. No, go. I'm
As
sorry.
the city manager
listening.
said, we did use some of the money for the trees around the splash pad, which are the canopy trees,
That's good.
and some palms. So, yeah.
Anything else from staff or council?
Yeah, so what, just to summarize, what we're hearing is you do not wish staff to take any action on the current resolution?
Correct.
Yeah, we need that flexibility at this point. And so, yeah, I agree.
Okay, and I believe that you probably have to take some cards on this one as well.
That's where we're going next. Call card, please.
We have 3 cards. Tony Chevalier?
Tell you who they are. Tell you who the cards are.
Shame, 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 shame. Shame on the city council that sat with Mayor Ronald Swank in December of 2001 and changed the tree mitigation plan, stealing the funds, putting it over in Public Landscape Trust Fund, where all the funds received from tree removals would now be used to beautify publicly owned spaces, properties. I'm outraged that the city of Titusville claims to be a Tree City USA, which requires the expenditure of $2 per capita planting trees, while for years this fund has been misused and not used for the required expenditures, and even a couple of years recently, the city planted no trees at all. Zero trees with the tree fund. So the tree team pushed back and we requested the TEC, the agency that is designated by Tree City USA's to be the tree board. We pushed them to function as such and get this errant policy reversed. Let me give you a little history, sir. The Tree Mitigation Fund originally was 100% for trees until Swank and his gang took those funds and diverted them. So by keeping them there to be used for beautification is against what originally was established. So the TEC recommendation to require at least 50% to be used to replant trees, come on, you know that that's the right thing. You know it's wrong to be using these funds, these tree mitigation funds, to paint signs and make a little electric displays. The money raised by losing our trees should be used to plant more trees.
Next card, please.
Michael Myjack?
That does go back, doesn't it? I mean, that goes back to the previous mayor. When this all went down.
Yes, sir.
2 mayors ago.
Well, you had
Before
Walt,
Tully.
Tully, he was before Tully.
Yeah. Yeah, I was here then. And I can tell you, Michael Myjack, still at Alpine Lane, by the way. The tree mitigation fund was started in '96 because of some reports that came out of the St. Johns River Water Management District talking about how overdevelopment is causing excess runoff, which is causing poisonous amounts of fresh water to enter our lagoon. So we recognized that, and when we saw how much trees we were cutting down, we started the Tree Mitigation Trust Fund in like '96, 5 years before this one. And the reason for that was to try to put trees back in the environment that we recognized were taken down. So it was for trees, and trees 6 inches in diameter and larger that were native. We counted, and we took a penalty against that, and that went into that trust fund. And that's where that money came from. Not to build concrete, but to put the trees back in the city. Because we were trying to build an urban forest, and we still are. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because we proposed this years ago, this 50% minimum trees. You know, the other 50%, you can plant stuff that's not trees. Doesn't have to just be trees. But the 50% minimum was to try to save some of what we started. So we've realized that most of that is not working. You guys made a decision years ago. It never really got implemented by staff. And so we're back to square one again on the TEC. And that's why we're now focusing on native plants. And we and I have proposed, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow. So this is a free advertisement to tune in. We're on the radio and on the TV tomorrow, okay? We're going to be talking about what I'm proposing as a native landscape trust fund. And it's the long form is a native landscape canopy tree and maintenance trust fund. Because not only do we have to solve the problem of putting the proper soil in the ground when we plant trees, we have to maintain them, have to water them. They need to be pruned. We would never have had to lose those trees in the Winn-Dixie parking lot if they'd been maintained once a year or two, even if it was by the city, you know? And I think we can pay for that using this Native Landscape Trust Fund to, one, help pay back developers who are using LID, to pay back the developers that are planting 70, 80% natives. And if they're not natives in Brevard County, as vouchered in the Atlas of Native Plants, regional Florida natives, they get a half a discount. But exotics get no discount. They get no reimbursement. And so what wouldn't be reimbursed, what wouldn't be reimbursed would then be going to putting in the kind of landscape that we need and the maintenance for building the tree canopy and forest that we need throughout the city. It becomes a cyclic process. If we're going to continue to tear up native lands, we should be putting native plants back in the city and take this hard, impervious concrete city and make it a little spongy here and there.
Yep. Good thoughts.
So
Seriously, good thoughts. I mean, in fact, a little history there too. This is kind of a new thing,
Yeah,
especially when I go
so
back and
can we
see.
put this on hold until we figure out what we're trying to propose from the committee side for maybe a month or two? That's what my recommendation would be to
Thank you.
table this. So, thank you.
I'm not quite sure what that does for us. What does, Brad, what's your thought on that?
What sounded like you,
Well, where do you see this right now? Is this something we can hold on, or we kind of are like, let's not do anything on it different right now? It does go back a way. I mean, this is some changes that, heck, I don't even know how long ago, a long time ago.
It's at the discretion of the city council how you'd like to go forward. So as a
I
collective.
get that. That's why I'm asking you for what you think, because you're supposed to be my expert over here.
I think what we're after is, do you want to encumber half of your landscape mitigation funds to I think it said, high-quality canopy trees. Do you want to encumber 50% of your landscape mitigation fund for that or not? Or do it by project basis, to which you would review each one of our
Well,
projects.
We do it project by project. Sounds like we can call that kind of on hold. I mean, it's not like if we're going project by project, we're not saying this is what's got to be. We can look at it project by project. So I think that that's a happy middle. So let's stay with that. And we'll talk more. I'm learning things. 8 years and I'm still learning. I didn't realize, go back to 2-3 mayors ago, and I'm not blaming the mayor of 3 years ago, by the way. I'm using that as a timeline. So, all right, buddy. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, both the city manager and Brett, do we, out of that fund, can we go back 5 years and find out how much of that, many of those dollars has been spent on anything other than trees?
It's trees and landscaping, yes.
And, you know,
In each one
just-
of the projects, we do know exactly how. Now, remember, this is only on public lands.
Right.
So as Member Nelson suggested, we did use landscape mitigation funds for the splash park. And we did landscaping as well as trees on that particular project. The Gateway project has landscaping and trees as part of that as well. So yes, we certainly, that's how we're using it now. But I think the question at hand for you tonight is, do you want to encumber for high-quality canopy trees 50% of your fund?
I'm still in alignment with just keeping it
Right.
open, and we make the decisions as we go.
And that allows us the flexibility, and that's what I said. I think by doing that, we are kind of not on hold, but we're holding until the next project.
Okay.
So I think that's reasonable. Member Nelson.
But I think we also ought to recognize, or people should recognize, this money is not going for signs, is not going for concrete, is only going for landscaping and trees.
That's the way I understand
Very-
it.
We might use other money for
Right,
those things, but
That really needs to be
Yeah.
absolute. I agree. Anybody else? Council, no. Card?
Last card is Dan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, I've been following this somewhat. I know that Bill Klein has done a lot of research and his findings are something to the effect is that the money disappeared and it wasn't spent on trees. And I've been here for 50 years and I'm reading this ordinance and it sounds like it says that it's a fund for mitigation efforts. And I know that Kevin Cook was talking about a number of times. He said that he's used this, or that the city has used this for public works to even trim trees. But the thing is that before this ordinance for fund mitigation is it was taken care of by budgeting from general funds. So now it's instead of general funds, they're using the money from the funding for mitigation efforts, which I see that's not right. That's not right. When you pass a law and then you just give it to what was for general funds, that's not fair. It's not fair for the people who prepared the ordinances, anything. So right now it's not done right. I'm going to ask that because I don't know that much about it. I'm going to ask that you listen to what Mike Majak said, and he's asking for you to table it so that TEC can get their heads together more on this and discuss it. So that's what I'm going to ask for, what Mike asked for. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're in a good place right now, though, where we're not tying ourselves down to one thing, and we can move forward, and I feel good about that. And no more cards? Anything else from council? Okay.
Can I have
Member
one
Nielsen?
more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say that I agree with TEC and that they were discussing, we're using it for tree maintenance and none of it for tree planting. And I think we need to be careful to make sure that we're using at least the part of that for trees and landscaping as opposed to using it to supplement our general budget for tree maintenance.
I agree
That's
with that.
just
I
my
think that's the
thought.
way it was intended.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's very controversial. I think it was intended for planting trees
Right,
and
and landscaping.
landscaping.
And I've got to say, while I'm thinking about it, landscaping downtown is absolutely gorgeous.
I've heard that over and over, and I agree, but I don't normally hear it. I'm actually hearing it from citizens along the way. That's a first for me. That's awesome. Congratulations to all.
I'd like to
who've
shout
done
out to
that.
Chuck, who has really done a phenomenal job of planning and
Yeah,
executing.
whoever
Yes,
that
sir.
is, we probably need to get him up here for something, because that's pretty awesome. Okay, Member Nelson, this were you? Or we don't need to do anything, do we?
I think a consensus of council, just as review, is just to do nothing.
Yeah, right now, and as projects come along, but I think there's a lot to be learned here. This has got a history to it that most things don't. So we move on, City Manager.
On to item 12D, which is development standards. On February 27th, 2024, the city described issues related to the city's development standards, specifically landscape buffers versus setbacks requirements for small multifamily projects. Small lots and otherwise meet the minimum dimensions required by multifamily zoning district may not be able to meet the landscape yard buffer standards. Variances are required to encroach into landscape yard or reduce the width of the yard. City Council requested staff with the citizen and report back to them the findings at a future date. So enclosed are the staff's findings, and Brad will update you on the direction that we are requesting you to go forward.
You want to go and talk now? You want to talk now?
If we got some,
Yeah, go ahead, Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor, go ahead.
yes. This is a difficult one at the time that we are spending now, because there is a big push on affordable housing and so forth, and a lot of the lots of olden days or time past, they don't fit the standard that we have right now without zero lot lines and so forth. And as we move forward with the need for housing, that's going to continue. So my thoughts on this, we should take, and I don't want to say take every proposal at its own value, dependent upon the scale that it was built on or used years ago. But we're going to have to evaluate some of the proposed projects as we go forward based on a different standard, because we need housing. And how do we incorporate that in there, into the process? But I don't say that we just put in a zero lot line or anything like that, but everything should be evaluated now. Consideration should be given to the need as we move forward as we go, as the things happen. Because we know that the land in 1947 was laid out a lot different than we lay out things in one. And we don't have to go back that far. We can go back to the 90s. We had the opportunity and the privilege of demanding a lot of more space between houses and so forth. We didn't have the housing need that we have now. I understand, and it was a presentation did to the League of Cities last night by the Homeless Coalition. I mentioned this to the city manager that they passed the Senate bill that would go in effect that we just can't go out to the park if the homeless families are out there. We can't just go out to the park and run them off anymore as of January 1st, 2025. We have to, they have to go to somewhere where they can have housing. And so that's going to be a difficult thing. So as we move forward with this, if we set up some consideration, especially when these are small lots, give them some extra consideration and do what we can to make it work. And that's the attitude I think that we should move forward with it.
And now that we've set the table up here with Vice Mayor, give us what you got there, Mr. Staff. No, he's going to give us feedback.
The Vice Mayor pretty set the tone. I mean, you touched on a lot of things I was going to bring up already. The citizen that brought the issue up to you at the last meeting brought up things that I had presented to a previous council a year or two ago related to infill development. We have a lot of policies in our comprehensive plan related to infill development that defines what they are. These are properties that are skipped over. The infrastructure is there. They're ready for development, but for whatever reason, there's some issues related to zoning. Zoning doesn't allow what's being proposed there. So there are a lot of issues that a property owner would have to go through as far as getting variances, waivers, whatever, a lot of hoops basically in order to get a proper development. I've included in your packet that same presentation I gave the previous council about this particular topic. There are 2 case studies in there. One of them has to do with a property that was simply trying to use an existing piece of property. It's actually Hope for Brevard. It's got the affordable housing project on here right now. It had to go through a lot of variances, a lot of hoops in order to get this developed. Even though it already had a multifamily development on before, the city destroyed, condemned, transferred this property over to an association that was going to, or coalition, or an organization that was going to rebuild affordable housing units, but they still had to go through a lot of hoops in order to get that approved. This is just one example, and there are many others like this that have to go through a lot of hoops. And I think there are a lot of times they're unnecessary hoops. For example, landscape buffers, which is what was brought up to you before. Our code has a blanket landscape buffer 20 feet along any public right-of-way, period. That's the minimum. A lot of properties can't meet that, especially in areas that are infill, such as this example. And I'm looking at an example on page 375 of your packet. You'll see a slide there that I've presented before, and you can see that aerial of that particular property. It had also an old paper right-of-way going through it. So a lot of issues it had to go through. Had to vacate that right-of-way, had to go through a slew of variances to get something properly done. Our code also required that the development on that particular property make sure that all the backyards orient out towards the street. And in an area such as this neighborhood, we have this block pattern of development. It made more sense to be able to have the front doors facing the street and have on-street parking in this particular case. And that's what they decided to do. And we're able to get the variances necessary to allow that kind of development. And also share the stormwater system on the property itself without having to put swales or drainage ditches between the building and the street. And then the on-street park or off-site parking, it did not, in this particular case, they initially proposed a parking lot on the property, which was going to take up a good half of the property. And because they were able to get the flexibility through variances, they were able to not have to use up the entire half the property just for parking. So that's just one example. Another one is further down on that in your packet. It's page 377 of your packet. It's townhome development. It went through a series of variances in order to allow this as well. And this is just a 28-unit townhome development. Townhome developments and the previous example I showed you are what are called the missing middle. And a lot of these properties that are not really large to create a giant multifamily apartment development or large enough just a 200-unit single-family subdivision, they're small. They're between these kind of developments, but they can't be developed on because they're not big enough or they don't have enough buffer, room for the required buffers. In other words, our code is generally designed to accommodate very large developments. It's not designed for small developments. And so a lot of these small parcels or these infill parcels that are in between already existing developed properties have a hard time being developed because of our code requirements, even though the road, the public infrastructure, and utilities are there. So what we're asking you tonight is some direction from you to allow us to go forward and explore ways where we can make things a little more easier, even underneath the current densities of our code. So the first example I gave you there, I think they had they were only able to get 10 residential units on that property. And I believe the existing property development that was on there before had twice that. So our current code only maxed them out to 10. But even at that number, they still had to get, I think, about 6 or 7 variances. So we just want to get some direction from you to be able to allow us to explore some opportunities where we can make things a little more flexible on some of these infill lots.
Member Stokel.
So are we talking about, you wouldn't be changing the zoning necessarily? It would just be if it's already zoned multifamily, you're wanting to make sure that they can build multifamily due to the certain
Correct.
standards already?
Yeah, so we're not asking to look at rezoning pieces of property, but rather look at the development standards that a developer would have to adhere to in order to utilize that property
Work.
under that current zoning, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know I'd be in favor of that, especially considering, what was last week. It was already zoned that way because of certain things. Like it just was not possible. What I don't want to have happen is where they're just, like, even looking at this picture on 377, I think I remember seeing this from a couple years ago when you did this presentation. Like, to me, it's just sad when you see the house on the right, which looks like single family, a yard for the kids to play, whatnot, and then you see on the left, it is nice, but there's no yard, there's nothing there. I don't want us to just maximize every space we have. I get it for those that are already zoned certain ways. I just don't want to be too lax.
So no, this is consistent with what Cannon Associates, which is now with Kimberly Horn, has presented to you in various presentations related to making the code a little bit more flexible and our comp plan a little more flexible on the gateway corridors in our downtown and even in the area to the neighborhood just immediately to the west, which one of these examples is located in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Good? Anybody else? Oh, no, absolutely. Cards?
Rodney Honeycutt.
Good evening. Rodney Honeycutt, 3700 South Washington Avenue. Recently, I'm here because recently I've run into 2 of these situations. They're infill lots. They're already zoned for multifamily. They're less than half an acre. And so both of them, I did a pre-application plan. And the buffers on one site take up 60% of the site. And on the other one, it's 67%. And so therefore, it's about impossible to develop it. And so I'm in favor of, on small infill lots, being able to do this. I'm not asking for large lots. I haven't done anything to small recently. And on the large lots where you have a 20-foot landscape buffer or something, it works out fine. But when you have something that takes up 60 to 70% of your lot in the buffer, then you only started out with 1/3 of an acre, you have nothing left. And so you have parking requirements also, and the code does recognize under half an acre, you still have to have stormwater, but you can do it in swales and have a less area. So we're looking for something in the buffers. I know one of these sites is in the urban mixed use. And so you can have commercial or multifamily or single family. If this was if my client was looking to do a commercial site, the buffers are allowed to be the same as the setbacks. But since it's not, it's multifamily, that's not the case. And so in this case, if the multifamily was allowed to have the same advantage as a commercial, then this site would work. And remember, when you do these sites, you have to have a handicapped parking space. And a handicapped parking space don't sound like much, but it's 17 feet wide with your 5 foot, and it's 20 feet deep. And you've got to have a 24-foot drive aisle behind it. And when 60% of your lot's gone for buffers, it's just about impossible to do. And so I'm in favor of looking at this. And certainly I'm talking about infill lots. I'm not talking about large tracts. And so if you have any other questions about it.
I would just say, it sounds like you're going to have to start looking at tiny homes. Because as you talk, the more you talk, the less place there is. It's like, wow. So I appreciate that input from somebody who's out there. But yeah, I'm thinking, man, tiny homes, all you got.
So if there was, it's a kind of conclusion, so if there was a way to do it through the code, it would be much better than having to go through variances. The more things you do, the more money it costs, and the more time that means the rental's going to be on apartments or something. So I appreciate it.
Good input. Thank you. Yep, I agree. Next card.
Tony Shuffalo?
Tony Schiffalo, Tropic Street. No. While not directed specifically to West Titusville, this concern about city development standards is not a concern for existing homes in established neighborhoods, as it should be, but in a way to enable developers of small multi-unit projects, enables them to avoid spending time, effort, and money to get variations to setback requirements and buffer zones in order to cram more units onto small pieces of property that we're designating as infill. There's a lot of infill property in West Titusville. And for homeowners in established neighborhoods of 20 years or more, this is directed at, this will eliminate their ability to remain single-family units with consistent setbacks and buffers up and down the streets. So you'll have that situation like you see with the single-family homes and then the multi-apartments right on the sidewalk. And this ordinance that's being suggested doesn't allow builders of single-family units who own infill property, perhaps. It doesn't allow them to defy zoning regulations and ignore setbacks and buffer zones. Single-family units will still have to adhere to those zoning regulations. Flu policy 1.7.9 is especially bad for homeowners, but good for developers, as it wants to amend land development regulations to provide flexibility in site development, which, as Mr. Honeycutt is pointing out, would be to push to the very limits so that you can get a maximum amount of profitability. I'm not a fortune teller, but one doesn't have to be one to see where this kind of legislation will lead. And I don't know why staff is so adamant on destroying the quality of life for owners of single-family homes all over town, but especially in Titusville's old 20-year or more established neighborhoods, especially in West Titusville. I'll need to have an appointment with you sometime, Mr. Parrish, so you can explain this to me. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Next card.
The last card is Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson. I don't want to really disagree with Mr. Honeycutt, but I want to disagree with Mr. Parrish on a particular site that I've asked all of you to visit, and that is SNJ Oaks that he's mentioned about the 28-home townhouse, is that it was given all kinds of waivers and changing of setbacks and so forth and buffers, a buffer that on the, where they have Mockingbird Lane, they got a fence, no buffer, that's it, got a fence, nothing. And where they had 26-foot area for traffic, now it's reduced down to 12 foot. And none of that is, I stopped counting oak trees on their tree survey at 80. It's called SNJ Oaks. Count the oak trees they have on now. Mr. Robinson? Mr. Diesel?
I haven't counted them.
There's 0. 80 oak trees are all gone. Count the pine trees. Count the trees. There's over 200 trees easily. How many trees do they have left now? I see 1 in the back. Which way do they position their townhomes? The back of the townhouse faces the street, just what he said they're not doing. You know, they shouldn't be doing. Back of the townhouse. This is a horrible project. A horrible project. SNJ Oaks took all the oak trees out. I think all of you should go see it. And you probably know I'm in court about this thing before a number of reasons that they violate the law, survey law and everything else. So the city has created through administrative rezoning a number of these problems that Mr. Honeycutt is perplexed with. So think of what you're doing, because right now is that when I went to, I told you just recently, or last council meeting, not CRA, is that I went to 50 about noontime, and I had to wait 2 times for the stoplight to get through the stoplight. And that's what's happened in other places. So in other words, our planning department is saying everything's fine with traffic, and we could go ahead and start doing 20 units per acre. You've got to be kidding. This will be just like Orlando soon, with all these planned units and so forth, and rezoning to more and more units per acre, 20 units per acre. What do you think the traffic is going to be like in a few years? Look what it's like now, before we do that. So as far as I'm concerned, is planning department, whether it's Orlando, whether it's the city of Titusville, has got problems. Thank you.
Council? We are on 12D. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Johnson, I totally understand what you're saying. I understand what Tony is saying, but I also understand that there is a need for housing, and we have to look at things to the best that we can to make it fit. We don't want to overcrowd people. But we do want to make sure that every option that we have is looked at. And sometimes in looking at those, it cannot be the ideal, 4-bedroom house and 2 acres. It's going to have to be a small lot that's tailored to meet the needs of the community. And everyone deserves housing. And we're going to have to do what we can and not to make people uncomfortable, but to try to make sure that everyone sleeps under a roof every night. So I understand that it may look like we're trying to crowd people out, but we're not. We understand that God is not making us, I know I'm in a government position, but God is not giving us any more land. So we got to make do with what we have to the best. I'm not saying put people packed up like sardines, but I'm asking the staff to look at it and see what we can do and what we cannot do.
Member Stokel?
Yep, question. Brad, do you know the history of, were these properties zoned multifamily and then these buffer requirements came on and were applied later, so they could have originally been built out just fine until these new stipulations were on, or how did we get in this position to begin with?
Well, it's not just the buffers, but yeah. I
Well, what
think
the requirements?
the properties have been zoned multifamily for a long time.
Okay,
The buffers have changed off and on over the years and amended in different ways. Current standard is along a property, public right-of-way, has to be 20 feet, and that's just it. You have to demonstrate the distance that starts, that's in addition or actually overlapping your setback requirement. So let's say your setback for the building is 25 feet, but your buffer is 20. It's not in addition to, they can overlap with each other. Sometimes the setback is 10 feet, but the buffer is 20. The buffer is fixed along a public right-of-way right now. In some parts of the city, it's it can be 30, and like we heard earlier, it could be proposed to be up to 50, but the minimum is 20. And that's along the public right-of-way. Then for residential development, the perimeter landscape buffer is supposed to be 20 as well. But other uses are only allowed, they can go down to 10, like industrial and commercial. What that buffer is, when you look at the code, it says, it's really the differences of all the different types of uses. It's just the width of that buffer. The actual vegetation inside that buffer is the same. So the types of trees and the spacing of trees and shrubs or whatever else it might be, it's the same. The difference is the width. It just seems like there may be some alternatives that we can look at. Many other communities look at things such as, well, if this use is going to be next to an incompatible use, these are the types of screening you should put in there, not necessarily a 20-foot buffer. And these are the performance standards you got to put in there, such as these types of trees should be close to each other, and should grow at a certain time, or you have a fence or a wall or whatever that might be, depending on what that adjacent use is. So there are a lot of things we can explore, especially.
I was just gonna say, so it sounds like we're in this situation, what we're discovering because of current standards, we have properties that can't really be developed because of current standards. They may have been able to be developed prior, but with current standards. So if that's the case, I feel like I'd like to move forward with trying to see what we can do to help these properties specifically for, what I'm looking for is to try, this is tough to do, I feel like, but if they were to go through the variance process, they would probably get approved. Like, I would like to remove that extra time, that extra money for them. If there's things that we kind of know, and I think with council, how we would feel.
I mean, I like to respond to the variance. So the Board of Adjustments have been very good at reviewing applications against the criteria. So they deny a lot of things. In these particular cases, they brought, what they saw was, no matter what they, like the first example, no matter what they did, what they proposed, there was a number of variances they're going to have to get. So it's a hardship to be able to use whatever they do. And that's what they saw. And so what they try to do is work with the applicant to try and minimize the number of variances as much as possible. They could not eliminate them all, no matter what the applicant tried to do. Those are the kind of scenarios we want to see if we can fix. Because there are a lot of good properties that are out there that are currently properly zoned that could be developed, but because no matter what they want to do, they're going to have to go through some kind of hoop like this.
Okay. Yep, that's my thoughts on it.
Member Nelson?
I agree with Sarah. I think we ought to see what we can do, see if it's workable. And I understand what Tony's saying, that, we don't want to shove, 16 people or 16 units on a tiny little piece of property. But on the other hand, we also don't want to deny people the right to use that property for somehow or other. So I would like to see what you guys came up with.
I would too, and I'm kind of echo almost exactly what you said. I say this all the time, I live in a 1965 neighborhood, and I don't know how you do it, Rodney. I don't know how you do it, and I can see these pictures are kind of illustrating that. But I certainly don't want a complex across from me that's got 13 people in it. I get that, but we need housing. It's
sort of like,
yes, go ahead.
it's sort of like you have a single family house and you don't want necessarily 16 apartments next to it, But maybe if you had a building that had 4 apartments in it, that would sort of fit in.
I guess, as I think of this, and again, I see that developing side, the private property side, that you have a right to do blah, blah, blah. But I also see that when you've been in because you seem to deal with older communities, and you have, you've been there for, in my case, 60 years. And then all of a sudden it changes. And kind of an analogy that I have is, you kind of chose a college to go to that's got 6,000 or 7,000 people in it. And the next thing you know, they've decided it's going to be a 52,000 person campus. That's not what you bargained for when you got there. It's a very difficult thing. So I definitely can see that, but I can also see, especially, when Rodney's talking about the situation he's dealing with you got this, what was 37% of, anyway.
67% of the property.
Whatever it was, you didn't have room to build anything.
Yeah.
So I get that as well. So, Brad, could you fix this for us?
If you're okay with this, I'd like to come back with you with some more information and see, so you can understand this situation.
I think what I'm kind of hearing is everybody gets both sides of this. And I'm living in one of those neighborhoods that could happen, and it's like, wait a minute. I've been living like this for 60 years, and all of a sudden we changed it. But then again, we're running out of places to go. So I kind of like what he said there. Vice Mayor, what do you think?
Yeah, look at it. That's why I want to just look at it and come back with some ideas. And I just wanted to state my concerns. I know that. Thank you. I just wanted to state my concern. I know that the problem, this is happening in a lot of places. And we just want to prepare for it as we go forward and still try to meet the needs and the requests but we still want to make sure that we want to keep our city the best that we can, in the decision that we go forward.
That's a fact. So what do we need to do right now?
I think staff has sufficient information.
Yeah.
We have input from the citizens, a couple cards
Right.
here, so we're going to come back to you
That'd
with
be good.
some more information
That's
and
tough.
see if you'd like for us to proceed or not.
That was a tough one. I literally get it both ways. City Manager,
Yes, sir. We're to petitions and requests.
second time. So that means that anybody who hasn't spoken yet, that means we're there. Stan's going to take off. He can't get speak anymore. I see none. So we move to Mayor's report. I'll be short because there's not a lot to say. I'm actually looking at my calendar here because a couple interesting things. Tomorrow, what's tomorrow's date? Tomorrow is the 13th. Tomorrow, I will go to my first, I've been appointed by the, I guess, County Commission. I've been appointed by the County Commission to be on the Sports Committee for the Tourism Development. Yeah, I thought so. And I if you're going to ask me to be on a committee, sports is probably a good place to put me. And there's some exciting things happening that I'm not going to really get into, especially since I've not been to a meeting yet, so I don't know how solid they are. But there are some sports coming here, and certainly you've seen what sports can do to a place like Vieira down there at the USSSA complex, and we'll go from there. But I'm looking forward to that. And then the next day, City Manager, you're probably going to talk about that, our event that we go to on, I think it's Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you say what that is?
It's the Chamber of Commerce about 3 or 4 years ago created a economic output. It's primarily towards real estate and other developers, but it gives the opportunity for the area to talk about development and what's happening. And so you've got an EDC speaker coming, and I believe that the mayor will do an introduction for that. And it's probably about a 2 to 3 hour meeting.
It was a long time. I was actually the main speaker last year. I must admit, I didn't know I was the main speaker until I really didn't. I just thought I was going to be kind of, doing a little talk. And then when she gave my intro bio, it was like I stood up and I said, your bio is going to be longer than my talk. But in fact, it wasn't. We had a nice presentation. But Thursday, I'm the welcome, but I can't possibly give the welcome without going over some of the things that are going on in Titusville. So I'm not going to try to make it long, but I'm not going to get up there as the mayor and not be able to say, we got things going on. Well, I will tell you, my start off is going to be, because it's going to be at the Space Center with that astronaut place over there. And I'm going to start off by saying that we're at the proper place for this economic development event, because we are soaring like rockets over in Titusville. Woo! Y'all got that, huh?
You just gave away
I gave it away. Oh, nobody's watching. We're good to go. Anyway, so got a couple good things coming up, and I'll leave it at that. Like I said, I think getting on the tourism thing with the sports committee is pretty cool. I look forward to seeing how that works out. Member Nelson.
Really nothing, except I've got to say, we all got the email from the city manager about the pipe, the sewer pipe.
Right.
And I hope people realize that pipe cast iron pipe is probably from the 50s.
Most of them are, I think.
We have, 227, I think, miles of sewer pipe. And I'd be willing to bet half of that is old pipe. And we've been working furiously for the last 8 years trying to put in new pipe so that we don't have pipes that break. But it's expensive, and we're slowly getting there. And this one wasn't half as bad as some of the others.
No, that
So,
doesn't even get in that league.
no.
It didn't even get out there. We were sucking it up as it came out.
And so I think we're doing good. And I hope people realize that having those old pipes impacts the lagoon, as well as everything else. Pipes that leak are going into our soil and eventually headed to the lagoon. So
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's statewide.
So I just hope people appreciate that we're trying to get somewhere slowly. We're trying to get there fast.
Well, if they saw, and city managers talked about it, if they saw the construction going on or the pipes being moved along by across from the old Titus Bowl, I don't know, maybe people know where that was. That's moving the pipes away from the lagoon.
Yeah.
Moved the sewer pipes away from the lagoon, and that was is a major project. And I will say, when you said that, I'm glad you brought that up. I won't get into any names or anything, but an environmental, I don't know if you use the word activist, but an environmentalist who's very active in our state, kept up with our minor situation. But she sent an email that I've not seen from that likes. It was very complimentary of our effort, our openness. Kevin, she was communicating with Kevin, and Kevin gave her the rundown step by step by step. I can't believe how she sent us just a wonderful, Kevin ought to put that in his file. It was just outstanding. She loved how candid we were and how open we were, how transparent we were, and the job that we did. Now, obviously, she doesn't oversee us, but it's nice to see that from somebody of that area. Herman.
I'm going to give my time to the vice mayor, because he always has a lot to say.
Vice Mayor?
I may be falling in the Herman category and don't remember as much as I used to.
Excuse me.
But I have been very, very. I think the city manager put into my box about a seminar over in Orlando, or in the last part of April, I think, and they're trying to come up with ideas about this homeless situation and what's going on there.
That's a tough one.
I've been involved in several aspects over the last couple of weeks with the homeless situation. I think it came up that we have on the homeless count in January, I think we had approximately 1,000 or 1,100 homeless in Brevard County. That number is increasing because people are getting put out of their apartment. The housing authority, I see what's going on in some of that. They are having to let a lot of people go because they can't afford to pay the rent or for what they'd rather pay the doctor bill than pay the rent. So it's, they meet the income requirements, but they are having to make some decisions about how they're using their money. The school board last night, and I'll let the vice president talk about that, at the League of Cities meeting. A lot of the good things are coming out. A lot of things are going on. A lot of things are being legislated into our city that we need to be concerned about as they go. We're not going to have a whole lot of control over. So that's kind of my update as I go forward.
Thank you, Member Cole, for deferring your time.
I don't remember I did.
Member Stokel.
Yep. To Vice Mayor's point, we had someone from the Homeless Coalition speak under public comment at the Space Coast League of Cities, and she gave out a flyer, and so I just pulled it up because I took a picture of it with some numbers on it. It was their point in time count. So if you're able to access that from them, I can probably send it to the city manager so you guys can see the graphic. But it was interesting. Highest homeless count since 2015 right now. So I thought that was interesting, but also knowing that our population has grown. But also the unsheltered veteran homelessness is up as well as unsheltered female homelessness. So I'll pass this on to the city manager to send to you all, but I just thought it was interesting to look at to give us some context as issues arise. In addition, so session is now over, thankfully. Right before the meeting, I did forward to the city manager a summary of all the bills, and there were a lot. I'll just touch on a couple highlights. There are some changes to Live Local, so I would assume that we'll probably have another ordinance come through addressing those changes. Sovereign immunity did not pass, which I was surprised by, honestly, but I do imagine that they'll bring it up again next year. Building permits did pass, so I'm sure that will impact us some. Cybersecurity was actually a good thing. What they did within that bill is kind of take some of the liability to the state level and away from the local level. So there were some good things that they passed. Mobility plans was a good thing. Also some issues related to stormwater, short-term rentals, which again, I think were grandfathered in. But I would just look through that. Oh, also the increased homestead exemption to include the CPI. That could potentially impact us with our millage rate and our taxes that we're getting in. As well, don't forget March 18th, so next Monday, the Form 6 seminar in Cocoa. So just make sure if you haven't RSVP'd to do that. I will attend, and then I think as city manager had informed us, because of the lawsuit going on right now, we may not be filing that. I don't know if there's any updates on that as of now, but I think there's over 100 cities that are part of that lawsuit currently. And then last night, yes, we did have the superintendent speak for Space Coast League of Cities. It was very interesting just to hear some of the new things that they're doing. One of the cool things, they're working on space megatronics up here in Titusville. So I thought that was really cool considering the industry. And he did a good job of explaining how they kind of space out their different career and tech programs throughout the county as well. So trying to give options to all the students, and then also trying to have a program in the summer if you want to get bused to a different school to see kind of what they're doing. He really stressed a lot of the CTE programs, which is the vocational programs. So that was really cool to see. And then he also gave out a lot of statistics on how well BPS is doing right now as far as grades and the ratings of the schools. Just seemed very involved and engaged. He brought some of his staff with him, as one of the school board members was there as well. So it was a great meeting. And that's all I have.
Very good. City manager.
Yes, sir. I have one action item. It's summer recess, and traditionally, you have implemented summer recess during the month of June. So we're requesting that you cancel the presentations and regular meetings scheduled for the 23rd of June. And this provides council the summer recess from the 10th of June to the 8th of July.
I can't believe that's already here. I mean.
You think I would vote against that?
Good luck.
Say, June, what was it? June,
Yes, sir. It's the actual cancellation is for your presentations and city council meeting on the 23rd of June. So that'll provide you a recess from the 10th of June through the 8th of July.
I might have the wrong year here. No, 24. No, I know we do. Did you say the 23rd of June?
Yes, sir.
I have 23rd of June as Sunday. That's what I said. I mean.
Hang on. It'll be. Stand by. It'll be the second meeting, so let's get that right. Thanks for the catch, Mr. Mayor.
How about that? I can go home saying I did something right, then.
Okay, so let's go with the 25th of June.
Me too.
The 25th of June.
You're off Sunday. No meeting Sunday.
Member
Okay,
Vice Mayor
25th,
would say
got it.
that we should not have a council meeting on Sunday.
Summer recess, okay.
Mayor, we do have one card too.
On what? Let's see, who would that be? Stan, what you got?
Fed. As long as you get fed, just like I approved you're getting fed when you went.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Stan, you got more angles coming lately. don't
I know.
We gotta think about these things. And you even smile twice a day.
Move.
Member Stokel?
Make a motion.
I was going to make the motion.
Member Stokel, go ahead.
Move to cancel the presentations and regular council meeting for June 25th, 2024.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? It's canceled. I just want you to know the only motion that Member Stokel made tonight was to cancel a meeting. All right.
Just some information items. The Titusville Tomorrow Community Meeting is scheduled at the Moore Center on the 28th of March at 5 p.m. This is another one, Mayor. I know that you'll be shocked that it's coming around that quickly. Is the Student Award Ceremony is at the Titusville Performing Arts Center on the 29th of April at 6 p.m. The Community Survey Strategic Plan Review is scheduled for 30 April at City Hall Council Chambers at 5 p.m. That'll be a workshop, a facilitated workshop. And 4th of July, we're working on that right now at Chain of Lakes from 7 to 10. And Mayor, I don't think you're going to speak until 8:30 this time, according to
What that?
current plan.
Which event is that?
We pushed your speaking time
Oh,
back.
yeah, that's right. We did back it up because.
So
Folks-
subject to your questions, that completes my portion.
Okay, I'm just checking here. Tuesday, Thursday, special council meeting. Okay. Yeah, just for the record, we get there for the 4th of July thing. I don't know, 6, whatever. And I'd speak like 6:30 and there's nobody there. I mean, no. I mean, as far as like when you first get there, and then I'm going around. I went with the police in the cart, and it's like, man, we need to do this later because it got packed. And so we're just going to back it up a little bit and have more people. And I shouldn't say there was no people there on whatever year it was after the COVID, whatever year we went, 2021 maybe. There was nobody there. I could hear people out in the woods basically, and you were there. You remember? It was wet too, but
it was wet.
yeah. So it'll be better to back it up. So whatever time you tell me.
And sir, I am remiss. I do have one additional calendar item just for council. Is the student leadership seminar that council participates is next week on the 21st.
It's always enjoyable.
And that's at Parish, and it runs all morning. It actually begins at 8:30 and runs all day, so you don't have to stay there the whole time, but I think several council members have gone in and gone out, so that's always a
I was
good
actually a
thing to
presenter at one point, but from that point, you just walk through.
The 21st. It's
You
a
can just go
Thursday.
in and they'll be doing projects. You kind of sit with them, and then when you got to go, you go. Yep, enjoyable. All right, City Attorney?
Yes, council, I have one item that's in your agenda. Under my report, as you're aware, the city of Titusville is a named defendant in the case of Hilton versus City of Titusville and Apollo Gardens LLP, wherein the plaintiff, Maria Hilton, is seeking a declaratory judgment from the court that the development proposed by Apollo Gardens is proceeding in a manner in violation of the comprehensive plan and the LDRs. Plaintiff's attorney has advised that the plaintiff and the defendant, Apollo Gardens, have entered into a settlement agreement in this case. However, their settlement agreement is conditioned upon the city of Titusville agreeing to pay plaintiff's attorney's fees in the amount of $20,014.48. The plaintiff has now tendered a proposed settlement agreement to the city, offering to dismiss the complaint if the city agrees to pay her attorney's fees, again, in the amount of $20,014.48. I provided a copy of the executed settlement agreement between the plaintiff and Apollo Gardens and the proposed agreement for the city of Titusville in your package. I'm required to advise you of the settlement offer and to seek your guidance as to whether or not you want to accept the offer to pay those attorney's fees in the amount of $20,000.
Counsel? I mean, I would say no. I mean, quite honestly, she brought the case and wants us to pay the attorney's fees. I am not for that. Member Nelson?
I would agree. And as we were talking earlier, it wouldn't stop anybody else from coming in and
Be back next
taking up
week.
the costs, and we,
And we pay their fees and then pay the
Yeah.
next people's fees. This could go on forever.
so,
So, your card,
You do have a card.
I'm not surprised. Card,
Stan Johnston?
my court expert.
I have a strong opinion on this. My opinion is, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can I have a motion to, tell me what the motion is, of course, but Vice Mayor,
Motion to to not approve it.
not approve. Have a second.
second,
All those in favor say yes.
yes.
Opposed? We do not approve. City Attorney? You good?
Yes, sir, I'm good.
City Manager? Brad? Council's good with that? Ready? Break.